What's going on, everybody? It's Clifton Pope with Health, Fitness, Wealth, Business, and you're tuned into a very special edition of the HFWB podcast series, where information is the new money. And my entrepreneurs and business owners can relate to this, those profit and loss statements. We got to keep track of the income that's being generated and the revenue that's coming in and the expenses that are going out on a regular basis to keep your business operating and your entrepreneurship journey afloat. Which is why we got to show love to those accountants, y'all, because they help keep all those things in order. Which is why yours truly, Clifton Pope with Health, Fitness, Wealth, Business, currently recommends Strong Elm Business Solutions. I'm telling you, are you ready to elevate your business? Check out Strong Elm Business Solutions, your partner in growth and success. They specialize in tailored strategies that drive results, y'all, whether it's enhancing your chart of accounts, optimizing workflows, or providing top-notch business advice. Man, that came in handy for me getting my overall finances in order, because Strong Elm Business Solutions are dedicated to empowering small and medium-sized enterprises with the tools they need to thrive in today's competitive market. From startup budgets to payroll and bookkeeping, Strong Elm Business Solutions are here to help. I'm telling you. Visit Strong Elm Business Solutions at strongelm.com and discover why they can help you achieve your business goals. Strong Elm Business Solutions are empowering strong clients for a stronger future. Yours truly, Clifton Pope with Health, Fitness, Wealth, Business, will definitely attest to that, which is why you need to visit strongelm.com and give Strong Elm Business Solutions a call at 361-944-0122. That's 361-944-0122. You won't be disappointed on that. My name is Clifton Pope with Health, Fitness, Wealth, Business, and I approve this message. Y'all stay healthy, wealthy, and blessed. And until next time, peace, love, and positive vibrations. All right, everybody. And just like that, we are back. What is going on? If you don't know, now you do know. You're officially tuned in to another special edition of the HFWB podcast series. This is your host, Clifton Pope. And I'm always a firm believer of just, it pays off on who you know and who you get connected to at the right moment and right time. And for all my entrepreneurs and business owners, this is going to be a very special episode dedicated to you. And I heard this as I was talking to the guest who I was about to bring on. I'm about to bring on prior to us recording. Like, it's important for an entrepreneur and business owner to have access to four things. Basically, an accountant, a bookkeeper, a lawyer, and a realtor. So in this particular episode, we're going to bring on one of my newfound friends, and who basically knows a thing or two about, the art of bookkeeping and how it can be beneficial to the entrepreneur and business owners. But not only that, she is a wife. She's an adoptive mom. She's also a host of her own podcast called Good Words with, of course, Brandi Kelly, and she's also the owner of Golden Rule Bookkeeping. With that being said, I would like to welcome the lovely Brandi Kelly to the HFWB podcast series. Brandi, how are things going today?
Things are so good. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
No, I'm grateful that you made time out of your productive schedule just to provide information, knowledge, and resources to whoever may be listening, however they may be listening, wherever they may be. But for the people in particular, Brandi, who are listening to the HFWB podcast series today and want to know about your journey, your upbringing, your struggle, how you came into the position that you're currently in, basically having not only your own bookkeeping business, but serving, of course, one client at a time. Explain that to the people listening to the HFWB podcast series.
That is a loaded question, but I will do my best. So I do not have a background in finance. I have been a bartender for over 21 years. So
Mm.
I bartended 15 years in Vegas, 2 years in Seattle. Recently came to Corpus. My husband is the pitching coach at A&M Corpus for the baseball team. And so I got to Corpus, and things are a little different in Texas. Like work-wise, I mean, it's just a whole different ballgame being in a smaller community. And so once we got here and I kind of adjusted and I found a couple jobs, it really got my wheels turning of like, okay, what's next? Because you don't want to do this forever. Like my rule was at 40, I stop. Yes. And I'm 40, and guess what? That's still what I knew how to do. So I really had to like dig deep and be like, what else are you passionate about? So I did start the podcast. I found a great group of people to get involved with that really helped me open up like spiritually and emotionally. And the podcast is what did that, because I started reaching out to these people. One person that was on your podcast a bit ago, Aislinn, she was somebody that I met through doing my podcast. And then I got to go out to the farm, and yeah.
She's a great person, Aislinn. I learned so much just from like, she just has like the biggest heart in the world, and the fact that she welcomes you with open arms. I remember when I went out to her farm, and just, it was literally one of the most humbling experiences ever. And we had like a very special, like, she gave me a tour and all that stuff. And we also had like our own little like dinner and everything. Cause I was actually the last guest on her podcast. She was doing the Dinner Talks podcast. It was a great experience. I love Aislinn for sure.
Yeah, I got to do that too. I was also a guest on her podcast, and it was a neat experience.
It was.
So I was doing my podcast and still bartending. I ended up out in Port Aransas and working on a golf cart. Well, the neat thing about working on a golf cart, like I was the beverage cart on the golf course, but I have, you drive from hole to hole and you wait on the golfers, but most of your time is pretty much spent looking at the clouds, looking at the water, because we're on the beach, and I'm looking at the animals, and I'm just really connecting with myself. And I had time to really figure things out inside of myself and just
some brainstorming.
Yeah. And just some grounding, because I'm a furious overthinker, and I overwhelm myself on a consistent basis, just with like either ideas or, like we're all really guilty of like the creating things that aren't there, worrying about things that don't exist yet. And so it was a great opportunity for me to just be present and in the moment. And, in the past, I've done books for some bars that I've worked at, and I really enjoy, most people that work in an office wish that they could be out in nature, in the sunshine, getting a great tan. And I'm kind of the opposite. I was really looking forward to getting into the office and finding something that I could zero in and focus on. And so I just kind of started exploring. And also, like you mentioned in my intro, my husband and I are actually in the process of adopting from foster care. So we're bringing a little person from a hard place into our home. And so working 12 hours a day, clear, outside of town just doesn't seem like the kind of parent I would like to be to this little person. I really locked into the bookkeeping after getting into my friend's QuickBooks. And, so I just started looking up classes. I took some basics of accounting classes online, and I just made a decision. And if you've listened to my podcast, one of my biggest things, because I did in my journey quit drinking almost 4 years ago, and it came from a decision that I continued to make day after day, which took consistent action. And so in making the decision to start this bookkeeping business and take this journey and, dive into the world of accounting, I continued to make the decision every day. And so now I've got this business that I'm building that's really exciting. For me, it's exciting. To other people, looking at numbers all day and doing kind of redundant things, not very exciting. And that's why I am able to have a business, because a lot of people don't want to do that. People can do their own QuickBooks, but a lot of people don't know how, or, they just don't want to. It's like some people
they just don't have the time for it, or none of that.
Yes. Like some people love mowing their lawn, and other people are like, oh my gosh, get somebody over here to make it pretty and just Yeah.
I'm guilty of that.
Me too.
That's what's crazy about it. And I wanted to touch on one thing that you mentioned that's very, very critical. And that's something that I've been talking about in my Wellness Whisperer series the last month or two, the importance of grounding, because that's the one thing that stuck out to me as you were explaining everything, Brandi, that, the importance of just that connection with nature, it helps foster a sense of communication, with that intrinsic mental and emotional benefits, which I kind of feel like that was part of what kind of sparked your overall drive into wanting to figure out, is there more to it on top of you, quitting drinking a few years ago, as you just described, and of course, going on that journey of sobriety and everything. Would you feel like that was the journey of sobriety and, grounding yourself and building that connection with nature? Do you feel like that's what kind of sparked you in going forward and figuring out there is more to what I can offer based off of like the skills, gifts, and talents you possess within yourself?
I feel like the grounding is the key to being able to do it, because I have a brain that goes nonstop. I mean, I have the kind of brain that goes, well, I can do anything. I have too many options. And so when I first stopped drinking, I was living north of Seattle, and I would call it, I need to go to the trees. I need to go talk to God. I need to go to the trees. We don't have that here. So I use the beach here, but up there it was big. I mean, I could drive under 10 minutes from my house, and I could park and then walk into this great big, it was like a forest, and it had a path that led down to the Puget Sound, and I was at the beach, but I could just sit there for hours and just be where I was at. And grounding is what taught me how to just be in my skin without needing to change anything. And then from there, I can go forward, because if not, I'm spinning my wheels. I'm going here and there.
I love how you take the science of grounding very, very seriously, because that's what I've been trying to tell people for the last couple of months, because I myself too, I always like to practice grounding, even if it's just going outside in my front yard and just walking barefooted on the grass. Like, people don't realize that the human body is conductive, and grounding allows for the transfer of these free electrons from the Earth's surface into the body, which helps neutralize those free radicals. It helps reduce inflammation. And as you alluded to, going to the trees, encouraging that mindfulness and being present in the moment. And that contributed to your overall well-being, to where, look what happened here. Now we got ourselves into the world of bookkeeping. And yes, you mentioned this as well. Some people may not like looking at numbers all the time, but I feel like because of you practicing your grounding practice, it allows you to be present into the moment, to where it's like, okay, this is not that too bad. I could handle this. I mean, just one step at a time, no big deal. So I love that right off the bat, as far as you talking about the importance of grounding, because that's something that I stress on tremendously within the Wellness Whisperer series in the last few episodes I've done on the podcast, the solo editions and stuff. But back to the bookkeeping, like, describe kind of like the origin of Golden Rule Bookkeeping, because I love the name. It's catchy within itself. And at the same time, what can people expect for those, like wondering, what is Golden Rule Bookkeeping? What kind of services do you provide? How can I benefit off of it for those who are listening to the HFWB podcast series?
Okay, so do you know what the Golden Rule is?
The Golden Rule is basically doing unto others as they would do unto you.
Yes, and that's it. I like things really plain and really simple. And in trying to decide a name, I just felt like that's a representation of how I live my life.
That's a representation of society, pretty much. Well, it should be the representation of society.
Right. And so it's like, okay, well, I'm going to treat your books the way I would treat my own. Like, I'm going to put out what I want to get back. And I just want, you had touched on like the energy that's conducted in grounding, but people don't recognize that even their money is energy. Like, everything in our world is energy. And so when you treat your money like energy, like, I'm going to work and I'm expending my energy to get this money, and then I'm taking this money and I'm paying for energy, or I'm paying for rent. Like, these things are, it's all just an exchange of energy. And so when I sit and I do bookkeeping, that to me it's grounding. And so as far as the bookkeeping services that I offer, it's very, very simple. What I do, business owners can do. Like I had mentioned before, it's just a matter of whether you have time to, you enjoy it, and whether you want to. But so what I do is I categorize your transactions. So whatever transactions are going through your account, going through your bank account, and you have that link to your QuickBooks, I decide what that is, whether that thing that you bought is a supply, or whether, that's something that you bought for your business, or whether that's something that you paid, that's an expense. And then I reconcile your accounts. So I make sure that your QuickBooks matches your bank feed, so that way I do that each month, so that at the end of every month, you know how much money you actually have, and it's logged for your accountant. So if at any time you wanted to go and maybe get a business loan, or you wanted to get a line of credit, or you got a pop-up audit, you would have everything there ready to view. And then, so I categorize transactions, I reconcile accounts, and then I generate your financial reports on a monthly basis. So every month you can get your profit and loss, you can get your balance sheet, you know how much money it costed you to be in business, you know how much money you made, and how much money you spent. And then that kind of brings attention to, you can identify your strengths and your weaknesses. You can see where you're able to grow in your business by doing these financial health checkups with your bookkeeper.
Why do you feel, Brandi, is it important for every entrepreneur and business owner, from your perspective, just to have like that financial organization, that financial structure with their business? Because as you were alluding to, being able to keep up with these daily transactions with this data-driven insight, thanks to QuickBooks, why do you feel like every entrepreneur and business owner can benefit from having a bookkeeper on their side? For those who are listening, who is aspiring to be into entrepreneurship and business owner, and who aren't even thinking about bookkeeping and all that kind of stuff.
People don't want to think about their bookkeeping. That's why there is people like me. And it is important because you need to have these regular financial health, because our financial health is part of our health. We have our emotional health, our physical health, our spiritual health. Financial health is also a part of that. And especially as entrepreneurs, these regular checkups help you identify where you can improve, where you're doing good, where you're not doing good, because those are opportunities for growth. This is something, if you are doing these regular checkups, you're able to spot your weakness. You can, reveal concerning trends. You can see declining revenues, increasing expenses, and then you can highlight areas where you may be underperforming or where there's potential for expansion. Your financial health is really it's like in the back of house. It's like you go to a restaurant, you don't want to think about how the food is being made. You just want it to appear so that you can enjoy it, right? And it's like somebody needs to be back there doing these things that aren't so pleasant or aren't so fun.
Yes. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And that's a great way to look at it. And to kind of summarize for everyone, to kind of simplify for everybody who's listening to the HFWB podcast series, basically, effective bookkeeping allows entrepreneurs / business owners to maintain control over their business finances, plan for the future, and ensure basically the business operates smoothly and compliantly, because that's what makes the world of business and the world of entrepreneurship so much more enjoyable, to where you can focus on the things that you love and that you're passionate about, and most importantly, that you're skilled, gifted, and talented at. I want to ask you this, Brandi. Is there a particular client that comes to mind off the top of your head to where it kind of solidified you, as far as as you were alluding to, okay, this is what I want to do. Now I'm about to run with it and see how far I can take it. Is there a particular client that comes to mind off the top of your head, Brandi?
Yes. And it was a friend of mine who just kind of always, when I was working for her, this is somebody that I worked for that asked me to get into her books. And just seeing that, this is a mom of 3 kids under 7. Like, this is somebody who's kind of doing it all.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of just highlighted that need of like, okay, you can do it all, but you don't have to.
Right.
Once I got into her books, and I saw how I benefited from it, because it was very just calming and grounding for me to zone into her books. But I also just saw that, like, okay, every business owner needs bookkeeping. They may not need it from somebody else, but every business needs bookkeeping. Like, every business owner is going to take their stuff to an accountant, and they're going to get an earful from the accountant going, this is a mess. Like, you need to have this done before you get this to me.
No, I couldn't agree anymore. That's for sure. I mean, even with just me, I'm barely just getting like my own accountant too. She kind of was talking to me like, okay, how are we going to structure this out a little bit more in details? And then I had to kind of like break it down, go back and forth with them. And it's a learning process. That's for sure. It's like, you literally got to put time aside just to kind of sit there and really look at it and kind of break it down. And it's not for everybody. Some people would rather pass it off to people who are better at than them. Others wouldn't mind taking a look at it. Me, myself, Brandi, I'm kind of like right in the middle, to where it's like, I'll play around with it to a certain degree, but then if I need like an expert who can take it a step further than I could, then that's where I'm like, okay, time to bring in some reinforcements, which I feel like every business owner and entrepreneur should benefit from, most importantly, because there's a reason why there's bookkeepers and there's accountants and there's, lawyers and realtors. They could do things that you couldn't be able to do, but they can help bring your vision to a reality more so than ever. So I feel like that's very, very critical and very, very important, without question, which is why I salute you for what you're doing, without a doubt, Brandi. I appreciate that tremendously. For everyone who's listening to the HFWB podcast series and who's looking for, some words of wisdom, some encouraging advice as far as just, taking that leap of faith, so to speak, into entrepreneurship, into starting their own business, but they don't know where to start, where to go, where they should be, what would be 3 key pieces of advice you would tell that person listening to the podcast right now, Brandi?
I love that question. Okay, I will try to just stick with 3, but the biggest thing that I can tell people is to find your confidence. Find your confidence, because you have to believe that you can do it before anybody's going to believe that you can do it. And it doesn't matter what they believe if you don't believe it. There's that saying, like, whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right.
Yes, that's one of my favorite quotes.
When it comes to starting a business, you almost need like a tiny bit of delusion. You have to believe in every fiber of your being of like, I'm doing this thing no matter what, because it's not easy in the beginning, but nothing, like things that are worth having or worth working for. And so when it comes to, starting a business, chasing a dream, you don't even have to stick with the same thing.
Right.
But you've got to believe that you can do it. The next thing that I will say, number 2, is don't be afraid to fail. You got to be willing to fail forward, because like you failed with whatever experience you gained, whatever you learned not to do. Like, there's no such thing as failure if you keep getting up.
Yes.
So don't take a closed door as a failure. Take it as a redirection into the right direction or the next direction, because not everything is going to go the way that you have it planned out in your head. But that doesn't mean it's not going to go exactly the way it's supposed to go. Like, that's a huge thing. And then I would say for a third, I don't know. I just got so excited because those 2 are always at the front of my mind.
No, those are powerful, without a doubt.
I'm so excited for a third insight into starting a new business or being an entrepreneur, getting started, is don't be afraid to try more than one thing, and definitely always be willing to be, you've got to be teachable. Be teachable. Like, definitely you might have your mindset on how you think you want to do it, but don't definitely be willing to learn from other people that are doing it a different way. Like, be open to other people's input and feedback and criticism, and, just absorb all of that and look for how you can get better. Like, keep the big picture in mind.
No, those are all very great points. And to kind of add a couple of things to everything you just said, Brandi, and by the way, for everyone who's listening to this episode of the HFWB podcast series, rewind this part and replay everything that Brandi just said, because those are powerful within itself. But at the same time, to add to everything you just said, the great Michael Jordan said this very famous quote, one of my 10 favorite quotes of all time: in order to succeed, you must learn how to fail first. And at the same time, eliminate the word loss out of your vocabulary. There's only winners and learners more so than anything. I look at a loss as a lesson. It provides you the opportunity to grow through what you go through. That way you can learn from your mistakes and get better and continue to evolve for the greater good. And as you touched on, as far as just, always never being afraid to learn something new, you always have to remain a student, because at the same time, Brandi, we don't have it all figured out. I don't have it figured out. You don't have it figured out, Brandi, because if that was the case, we would all be billionaires with six packs. And at the same time, when you're constantly looking for the next answer and the next question to that answer, the world literally becomes like a library full of information and resources. I tell people this all the time, to where you can bring it down and be like, this will be very resourceful. Let me put that in my back pocket. There's another thing that's resourceful. I'm gonna put this in my front pocket. That way I can pull it out when I need to. Things like that will help you be the best version of yourself that you can be, based on whatever you're skilled, gifted, and talented at every single time. I can't stress that enough. So I love those words of wisdom you provided, Brandi, without question, which allows me to, of course, transition now to the list of questions that I usually ask everybody who comes onto the HFWB podcast series, just so we can, one, pick your brain, and two, allow the audience to get to know you a little bit better in details. First question is this: what's the first thing you do or think of every single morning that you wake up?
Oh, gratitude, immediately. The first thing that I think of is thank you, God, for, the two gifts that I just opened, and that is my eyes. I think gratitude first thing in the morning is the key to having a great day, because we can't let our feelings dictate the kind of day we're going to have. Because sometimes we don't wake up feeling all that great. So if we make a choice to be grateful for the day that we have ahead of us, then we have, the day that we decide to have.
This is true. I literally have a nice little picture in my family room that literally reads grateful for the big things, the small things, and everything in between. That's the best approach you can have towards gratitude, that can literally uplift and empower your own attitude to where you can empower and uplift and inspire others as well. I love that tremendously. And of course, leading into my next question, with my business, health, fitness, wealth business, I'm a firm believer of health is wealth. You can't have one without the other. They're literally two sides of the coin. In your personal eyes, Brandi, what does health and wealth mean for you?
Well, I think it means a balance. It means being intentional. It means, I think intentional is the best word that I can make it, because it doesn't mean a number on a scale. It doesn't mean that you follow a certain diet. It doesn't mean that you have a certain amount of money. Just like success, that's all relative to what we determine it to be, right? And so that's our intention and our effort put into those things, into our health and into our wealth.
I love that. That might be one of the best definitions I've heard to that exact question. That's because I've asked a lot of people that question. Okay. Intentional balance, that's the best way to kind of summarize that, because life is a balance. Just you got to make sure you don't trip and lose your grip on the footing beneath your feet. That's for sure. When you think of the word community, Brandi, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
When I think of it, can I give a semi-extended answer?
That's whatever you feel is necessary, Brandi. Please.
So I'm going to give just a small plug. So my friends that I made when I moved here to Corpus and I consider them my community more so than my neighborhood, even though I love my neighbors. It's a group of people that come together just to experience life together. But this community that I have, we actually are in the process. It'll start up in January, but we started this group called Corpus Healing Corpus. And so we're going to be teaching like free life skills just to people who kind of got just the School of Hard Knocks playbook from the start. So we'll be teaching like emotional intelligence. I was going to invite you if you wanted to maybe come and join us and check us out. No, it sounds like it's right up your alley.
You read my mind, Brandi.
Yes.
I'm thinking to myself, this might have to be something I might have to be a part of for sure.
So what we're trying to do is really just establish connection. And that's what community is it's connection in whatever way that looks like, whether it's just spending time together, whether it's sharing interests, whether it's sharing conversation, but it is connecting on an intimate level, on a group level, on a, just on an energetic level. Yeah. That's it.
No, that's great. I mean, that's what defines unity in the community at its finest. That's one of my favorite things I like to say. And you're onto something, Brandi, with that Corpus Healing Corpus thing. I'm definitely going to have to be a part of that in January 2025 because that's what we need. We need more like-minded individuals just to come together. That way we can grow together, thrive together, survive together, but most importantly, stand strong together more so than ever, which is usually what I pray on every single morning, every single day. And the fact that you said that, that's a calling right there from the universe and God to where it's like, okay, this might be something you might have to be a part of. So thank you for that invitation, Brandi. Invitation accepted for sure. We're going to make a little bit of a small transition. I'm going to offer you two choices and ask you which one you would choose out of those two choices, a little either or action. First one is this: loyalty or respect?
I'm an overthinker. I'm like, wait, so is somebody going to be loyal to me but not respect me?
It's interesting because you can't have one without the other in a way.
Yeah, because I'm like, wait, I don't want false loyalty or disrespectful loyalty. I think I would rather have respect.
You can never go wrong with that at the end of the day. Would you rather live in space or live in the ocean?
Oh my gosh, they're both scary. I have a deep appreciation and like I'm in awe of both, but I also respect both and respect that if we were supposed to breathe underwater, we would. And I am scuba certified because I had to get over my fear of the fact that there is so much down there we don't know about.
Right.
But space is infinite. Like when I say the possibilities are infinite, that's more infinite than what I'm talking about.
Yeah. When you think about it, we're not the only ones here in the universe. I mean,
can't
don't realize the Earth is a tiny little dot in a very big universe.
Thank goodness.
I tell people this all the time, Brandi. If you want me to believe that we're the only ones in this universe, you are out of your damn mind. Because you are right. It is infinite amount of possibilities.
It's unfathomable what is in space. I'm going to go with the ocean.
Got you. Would you rather be famous and poor or anonymous and rich?
I think anonymous and rich. I don't want to be famous.
Would you rather have unlimited free meals at your favorite restaurant or unlimited first class tickets to where you can travel?
Oh, first class tickets. I love to travel. I think it is so important to see how other people live. We get so caught up in what we think is our reality, and it is such an important lesson to go and see how other places in our country and in other countries live.
I second that for sure. Would you rather sing to every song or dance to every song?
I want to do both.
I accept that. I'll accept that.
But I'll probably sing to every song.
All right. Now, I'm going to throw this hypothetical situation at you, Brandi. Picture yourself on this deserted island, trapped, nowhere to go, But you have the option to listen to 5 of your favorite music artists of all time. It could be their whole entire catalog of music. It doesn't matter the genre. Who would those 5 music artists be?
Gosh, are you kidding me? I'm so random in my music. Okay, we're gonna go with Post Malone. He never gets old to me. We'll definitely go with Zeppelin. We'll go with George Jones. There's got to be more stuff that I like. I need to open my Spotify. I don't even know what I listen to.
No, you want to be the first one who's done that, Brandi.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to be really fast. I'm going to do it.
That's completely fine because it's hard, because there's nothing wrong with a nice diverse playlist.
Oh my gosh, it's all over the place. It's Taylor Swift and it's like techno music.
I'll accept Taylor Swift as your 4th. You can never go wrong with that.
Oh, okay. We'll go with Taylor Swift just because there's some variety. And then what am I at? Am I at 4? I'm at 4.
You're at 4. Yes, you have one more.
I already said George Jones. We'll go with Waylon Jennings. We'll go with Waylon.
You cannot go wrong with that at all. What is your favorite go-to meal, Brandi?
I mean, I love Uncrustables. They're not good for me, but I love them. That's not a meal. That's a snack, huh? I love to cook though. So I do almost everything chicken. I make a clean chicken piccata.
That sounds delicious, actually.
Yeah, I just sub out some chicken broth for the white wine and it's delicious and easy and quick because I made it a million times. I would say chicken piccata with some mashed potatoes.
Sounds like a very delicious dish without question, Brandi. You did allude to this a moment ago that you do love to travel. Where's your favorite place you have traveled to thus far? And at the same time, where's a place you would like to travel to that you've never been to before?
Okay, so I've been all over Germany, and I would say Germany, and it's hard to pick because northern and southern is so different. Oh, but wow. I think it was really neat going to Berlin, and like riding the train, and it was like being in a New York City except German.
No, that's good to know. I never would have thought of that, to be honest, but that's good to know. I'll remember that for sure. Yeah.
Well, in Europe, all the countries are so close that you can just ride a train to the next country. It's really neat. And where I would want to go, I want to go a lot of places. I've never even been to Canada, but that's not my place. I would say maybe Italy. I would like to go to Italy.
I love that. That's literally like one of my 5 places I would love to travel to as far as from an overseas standpoint, just because me personally, Brandi, I'm a sucker for Italian food. I can eat any kind of pasta dish every day of the week and not get tired of it. Plus with a nice cup of wine on the side. That's definitely a dream spot for me too. So I'm not mad at you for that choice. When you're not doing all the stuff that you're doing on a regular basis, Brandi, what are some of your favorite hobbies that you like to do that many people may not know you like to do?
I'm on an adult kickball co-ed league.
Okay.
What are some things I like to do that people might not know I like to do? I feel like I'm a pretty open book, but I like to go on walks. I like to go to the beach. Those are pretty common. I love to read. I absolutely love to read. I feel like I don't have any, I don't knit or sew. I would like to, but I do not.
No, that's not. No, those are really good, interesting hobbies, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm kind of with you on everything that you just said. I can't complain about that. What would be if you had to recommend a go-to book for someone to read to help change their life a little bit? What would you recommend them read?
It's called Mindset, and I'm trying to remember who wrote it. Dr. Kathy. Holy smokes, this is a good book.
I might have to add those to my library because I'm an avid reader myself. I always like to dedicate the first hour or two towards reading, even if it's just a page or two or a whole chapter, depending on the flow of the day and what I need to get done, etc.
I read this book with a highlighter in hand, and I highlighted it the whole time that I read it. It's called Mindset, The New Psychology of Success, How We Can Learn to Fulfill Our Potential. And it's by Carol S. Dweck, PhD.
I'm gonna have to look into that and add that to my library of books. I thank you for that book recommendation for sure, Brandi. That sounds like it's very, very informative, without question. My last question, speaking of questions, as we wrap everything up, picture yourself having the opportunity to go back in time 10 years ago. What would you tell yourself in that exact moment? And at the same time, based on the current journey you're on, where do you see yourself in the next 10 years?
If I could go back 10 years ago, I would give 30-year-old me the biggest hug, and I would tell her that this is the best thing that ever happened to you, because that might have been one of the hardest parts of my life. And I could not see what a blessing that, like, it was, I always say the breakthrough comes after the breakdown. And I couldn't see beyond the pain that I lived in on the daily. And so I would just tell her, like, this is the best thing that ever happened to you. And as far as the next 10 years of my life, I mean, I'm looking forward to being a parent. I don't know how old the child that will, be getting to parent will be. But I think it'll be an interesting journey starting out at 40 years old. I expect to be full-time bookkeeping with somewhere around, 50 clients a month would be ideal. And hopefully still in Corpus.
No, that's beautiful. And I love what you just said, so you got to go through the breakdown in order to break through. That's very powerful, Brandi. Now I see why you, of course, have your own podcast, Good Words with Brandi Kelly. Because man, I might have to borrow that one from you right there.
You're welcome to it.
In order to break through, like, wow. That just blew my mind the moment you said that. And I feel like everyone who's listening to this particular episode, rewind that part again, because we got to break things down in order to break through in life. I couldn't agree any more with that. And you could apply that to any situation that you're currently going through within this life that you live. So I love that, Brandi, just like I love the conversation we just had. For anyone who wants to stay in contact with you in regards to your journey, how can they reach out to you as far as your website, social media handles, the whole 9 yards?
So you can definitely find me on Facebook at Brandi Kelly. And then my website is www.grbookkeeping.net. And on Instagram at Good Words with Brandi Kelly.
Yes, and by all means, for everyone who's listening to this particular episode, y'all need to follow Brandi's journey. I'm telling you, it's a transformational journey. Y'all need to listen to her podcast, Good Words with Brandi Kelly, formerly known as the Sober Podcast. It's on Apple and Spotify podcasts. It will definitely uplift and inspire you. And yeah, just visit her website as well. And remember to practice the golden rule, y'all. Do unto others as they would do unto you. For every action, there's an equal or opposite reaction. Remember that. And with that being said, I thank you so much, Brandi, for making time out of your productive schedule to simply bless us with an appearance on the HFWB podcast series. Definitely learned a lot and definitely feeling more empowered, uplifted, and inspired as we keep things rolling.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, without a doubt, Brandi, it was truly a pleasure. And with that being said, I'd like to thank everybody again for tuning in to another edition of the HFWB podcast series, with your host being yours truly, Clifton Pope, encouraging everyone to stay healthy, wealthy, and blessed. And until next time, peace, love, and positive vibrations.